In the depths of the ocean, Lu Sheng stood up and with a confused gaze, began to look around, searching for where that mysterious voice was coming from. While his eyes were shining with curiosity and martial energy was emerging from his body, Lu Sheng began to gaze to one side and couldn't help but sweat, since he didn't know to whom that voice belonged nor who was calling him to go to the world of dreams. With a serious gaze, Lu Sheng began to look at the ground in silence. He knew there was no one nearby, yet someone was still calling him to go to the world of dreams. He didn't know if his ability to enter the world of dreams came from that. Lu Sheng closed his eyes and decided it was better to concentrate. They had shared much time together, and he knew that person didn't want to harm him, so he decided to enter the world of dreams and take a look. Once Lu Sheng opened his eyes, his mind was filled with surprise, since he was in a completely different place from the world of dreams. Lu Sheng began to contemplate this strange place in silence, not knowing what was happening. Lu Sheng's eyes widened with fear and confusion, since he did not know what this place was, nor if it was the base of the world of dreams. He could not help but wonder where the ruined future was. Now he found himself in the middle of the universe. Upon observing carefully, Lu Sheng saw a golden-colored planet in the distance, his gaze fixed on it. His eyes filled with curiosity since he did not know what that was. Lu Sheng began to observe the planet in silence and with a gaze full of determination decided to go take a look. Using his power, Lu Sheng began to advance toward the planet, and as he approached, he noticed that it was a small asteroid, which resembled the little prince's planet. A few hours later, Lu Sheng entered the planet and landed softly on the ground. It was night and in front of our boy there was a house, his gaze fixed on it, and thinking calmly he realized that this was the little prince's house. The house's courtyard was full of flowers, and without wasting any more time, Lu Sheng approached the house and opened the courtyard door. With a curious expression, Lu Sheng began to observe the flowers, and it didn't take long for him to realize that this seemed like a traditional Chinese-style courtyard. Just then, our boy's eyes started to shine seriously as something caught his attention. In front of our boy were three men sitting around a table playing checkers. One of them wore gardener's clothes, another had orange hair, and another man had long hair. Lu Sheng began to observe the men in silence, not knowing what was happening. Lu Sheng's eyes began to shine with confusion, as he did not know how these men had appeared here in an instant, without knowing if they were the ones who allowed him to enter the world of dreams. One of the men brought his hand close to the checkers board to make his move. While his eyes were shining with joy, he turned toward our boy and with a smile asked our boy to take a seat. Upon hearing this, Lu Sheng's eyes filled with surprise and fear, his gaze fixed on the men, and he could not help but go into shock, not knowing what was happening. While our boy was synced in his thoughts, the old man used his powers, and in the blink of an eye, Lu Sheng appeared sitting next to them. While his eyes were shining with confusion, he began to observe the energy that was emerging from his body, and couldn't help but go into shock since he didn't know when he had sat down. The old man closed his eyes and began to show a smile. Lu Sheng started staring at the old man with a suspicious gaze, and although he didn't know them, the energy they radiated and the constant flow of their natural breathing method were somewhat familiar to him. The old man began looking at our boy with a serene gaze and couldn't help but smile. Upon looking closely, Lu Sheng realized that this guy was Yang Yizhuo. The long-haired man closed his eyes and a smile appeared on his face. He was Wang He. The man wearing gardener's clothes began showing a cheerful smile. He was Duan Yifeng. With a kind smile, Duan Yifeng asked Lu Sheng to calm down since there was no need to rush. Upon hearing this, Lu Sheng began to gaze to the side and his eyes began to shine with suspicion. The gardener asked Lu Sheng to join them for a game. Lu Sheng began staring intently at the checkers board and his body began emitting a powerful martial energy. At the same time, in the vast starry sky, the blue ship was performing a jump and takeoff. It was traveling at the speed of light. Inside was seated the guide, having a glass of wine with a smile. Around him were system panels and right in front there was a system window. The system window began to show a recording of his battle against Lu Sheng. So the guide began to observe attentively and thought that the Fist of the Five Realms was without a doubt an amazing technique, a martial technique also known as the Art of Rules. He knew that this could only mean that Lu Sheng had reached the laws that govern the universe. A smile spread across his face, since with just this alone, Lu Sheng already had the pass to enter the Academy of Celestial Battlefield. According to the guide, Lu Sheng's constitution made him even more impressive. The system began to show Lu Sheng with his fists clenched and smiling, while martial energy was emerging from his fist. The only thing the guide did not know was which kind of constitution Lu Sheng had. He took a sip of the liquid he was drinking, and could not help but smile. He remembered that in the Jupiter region there was a case where a level 9 fighter faced one of level 10. The genius who achieved such feat was named Orland. That battle catapulted him to fame, and he was finally accepted into the Celestial Academy, where later it was discovered that his level was 9. The guide began to look at the ground, and the image of Lu Sheng smiling came to his mind. With a smile, he thought that what Lu Sheng had achieved went beyond his expectations, because he had fought against a level 10 warrior being level 9. He did not know what would happen if a level 8 warrior faced one of level 10, without knowing if they would have the level of a dawn star or perhaps the level of a bright moon. A confident smile appeared on his face, although a simple and direct estimation could not be made. The truth was that the level was not going to be something so low. It was very likely that this warrior would reach the star level of dawn. Furthermore, since Lu Sheng had already understood the arts of the 5 rules, if he did not deviate from his martial path, entering level 11 seemed almost guaranteed. The guide began to imagine the most powerful beings in the universe. He knew that Lu Sheng could even reach level 12. According to him, this was something terrifying since there were not many level 12 characters in their stellar region. Each one of them was a legendary and terrifying existence. Not even he dared to lift his head to look at them. The guide clenched his fists and a smile spread across his face. He couldn't help but feel happy because this time he had really made it. He began to observe the system window and his smile grew larger. He would never have thought that this routine mission would allow him to discover such a powerful genius. And besides, Lu Sheng owed him 3 favors. Over time, those could be 3 exclusive planets. While he was immersed in his world of fantasies, the system window activated and one of his superiors called his attention. Upon hearing this, Lan Cheng came out of his trance and panicked. With a serene gaze, Lan Cheng extended his hand and addressed his superior as Zhao Lin, explaining that he just had good news to share. Just before he could finish speaking, Zhao Lin interrupted him and decided to talk about it later since he had something urgent to ask him. He asked if on this trip Lan Cheng had come across any star pirate ships. Upon hearing this, Lan Cheng couldn't help but feel somewhat confused. With a curious gaze, he remembered that it was said there were active pirates in this region of space. While Zhao Lin's eyes were shining with fear, with a serious expression he revealed that several resource planets from the neighboring star sector had already been looted. All the major stellar resources had been extracted, and many powerful natives of the planets had already become slaves to be sold. Upon hearing this, Lan Cheng couldn't help but feel furious and curse the star pirates. He began to imagine a planet full of monsters and in chaos. The star pirates were like locusts roaming through space. Wherever they passed, they ravaged an entire planet. Not only was it a matter of resources, they also caused the collapse of defensive lines against interstellar beasts. In short, not only did they steal and flee, but left total disaster behind them. Zhao Lin began to stare at Lan Cheng and with a furious gaze made it clear that this band of star pirates was a group of the Red Eyes, the most savage in the Yumuxing sector in almost 100 years. Originally there were 12 members, 7 had been taken down or captured. Now only the Red Eye leader and 4 uncaptured subordinates remained. He began to imagine all the members of the pirates. The remaining 5 had level 10 strength or higher. The Red Eye leader was a level 10 martial artist at his peak point, someone very difficult to face. According to his route, he was going directly toward Lan Cheng's area. Lan Cheng's attention fixed on Zhao Lin and his jaw dropped in surprise. He could not believe that the pirates were coming toward him. He could not help but clench his teeth tightly and feel furious since in that direction was Lu Sheng's planet. At the same time, a powerful pirate ship was traveling through space. Inside the ship, in the area called natural space, there was a group of people sitting around a table eating calmly. With a serious gaze, the red-haired man picked up a glass of wine, began to stare at the others and informed them that yesterday he had been told that the price of common slaves had dropped by 30%. Those ordinary humans they had captured were no longer worth keeping. Transporting them would make them lose money. He asked Toxie Scorpio to go and choose some who had good appearance. She could get rid of the rest as waste. The woman named Toxie Scorpio stood up, put her hand on her chest and with a serious expression, nodded her head. The man began to observe the others carefully and in a serious tone mentioned that lately the stellar police of the Myaxing sector had already been tracking them. Next to him was a man with an eye patch and another fat man who wore glasses. The man extended his hand and several planets appeared behind him. He placed his hand on the table and while his eyes were shining with joy, with a smile he said that this was going to be their last operation, so each one could choose one. They were going to steal one last time and return home. The man who had a patch on his eye began to observe the planets with a serious gaze. While the fat man's eyes were shining with confidence, he began to point at the planet with his finger and with a smile said that he chose that star. The blue star appeared in front of the man who had a patch on his eye with a confident expression. He chose the blue star. He began to touch his chin and a smile spread across his face, since he remembered that it was blue star number A28462. According to him, it was a beautiful name, which matched him. He decided to keep that star.